All right, welcome back to Mind and Magic. We just had an interesting Thanksgiving week, to say the least. Over $10,500 in prizes and memberships were given away, so congratulations to all of the winners. However, this will probably be the final Thanksgiving giveaway that we ever do, because even though over $10,500 in prizes were given away, over $770 worth of prizes were also forfeited, several of them larger prizes, and it prevented other people from winning who would have rightfully won. Long story short, people couldn't follow the one rule the contest had. And if I make a rule, I have to enforce it. And, a lot of them I just felt bad for. I felt bad for people who won a big prize and a smaller prize and had to give them both up. Some weren't just subscribers, they were members. And I felt bad that I had to strip away their prizes and ban them for a while. I don't want to have to do that. I've always said that if the giveaways became a hassle, I would stop doing them. And it was more than a hassle this year. It was certainly the biggest giveaway we've ever had. It was also the biggest headache that I've ever had on this channel. I put a lot of work into it, uploading 34 giveaway videos, as well as rules clarifications, and it all was a net negative for this channel. We lost subscribers during this giveaway. I dropped 100 in one day, right after I warned people that I would ban them if they broke the rule. But that could just be Gumroad playing games, because looking back through the history, I gained 100 subscribers in one day and then lost exactly 100 subscribers in one day as well. So that could be like a YouTube bank error where their phony algorithm just gave you some subscribers and then took them away when they realized they had mistakenly given you some. But in any case, a promotional giveaway is supposed to gain you subscribers, not lose them. Also, our big prize winner of the year's worth of Godform tier on Patreon was already a member of the Godform tier on Patreon. So I'll be losing his $100 a month as well. But fair is fair, because there was really only one rule and that wasn't it. So a big congratulations to LTQ. This should more than make up for me referring to you as LTC during one of the Godform rituals. I'm used to saying LTC when referring to Liam Thomas Christopher, and so I think that was just a habit while I was in the trance state for the numerous times that he's been referenced over these many years. But I did make sure to be mindful of that afterward. Now, I'm not going to sit here and badger everyone all day. I know that every year I say that I'm probably done with the giveaways. It takes a full year for that effect to wear off, and then I end up doing the giveaways. But this year was especially bad, so we shall see. Since I'm coming off of my vacation, I have a lot of catching up to do, so we're just going to have a mailbag and get caught up on some of these questions. I have a whole stack of email to get to, but we're just going to wing it this week. AJ Garrett 9639 says, I wonder whatever happened to Psycho Sorcerer. That's a good question. He's probably sitting somewhere with a puppet and a jar of pickles.
Pickles, bitch!
That somewhere being his new YouTube channel, Psycho Sorcerer 2.0. Yes, old Joe has gotten an upgrade. His channel is now bigger, his content is better, and his pickles are nastier.
Pickles, bitch!
And I will leave a link to his channel in the video and in the description. Leroy Jones says, does it matter if the fourth pinnacle was made while Jupiter was retrograde in Cancer? I'm looking at buying one, and this came up in my communications with the seller. It could. Now, the grimoire, the Greater Key of Solomon, doesn't specifically say anything about Jupiter being retrograde. It just says while Jupiter's in the sign of Cancer. However, we do know the effects of retrograde in astrology, and retrogrades are not typically a favorable time to work with those specific planets unless you're trying to use the retrograde for some specific effect, such as doing glamour magic during a Mercury retrograde. Tricky, deceptive, illusionary magic works well during a Mercury retrograde. Not as much when Mercury isn't retrograde. When Jupiter is retrograde, it's more of a time of introspection and turning inward instead of outward. Jupiter is known for expansion, but during a retrograde it's more about retraction, but not quite in a Saturnine way, as it's not nearly as serious. This is still jovial Jupiter, but instead of going overboard with expanding and more, we just need to dial it back and cut back a little bit. A good way of putting it for Jupiter retrograde is trimming the fat in more ways than one. You can be downsizing at work to help cut expenditures for the health of your business. Jupiter retrograde is very good for diets and losing weight, for the health of your body. But Jupiter is a benevolent planet, and as such, it's not going to sour on you just because it's in retrograde. Now, how that's going to affect your fourth pinnacle being made and or consecrated during its retrograde is largely unknown. You would really have to ask somebody who has made and consecrated one during that time and ask them how it affected it. The Greater Key of Solomon didn't really specify that, so it may not affect it at all. But it possibly can, especially if you think it will. Because if you start entertaining the idea of, oh, my pinnacle isn't as good as it could be because it was made and consecrated during the retrograde, then that in of itself can affect its potency, right? Because you're doubting it. My advice would be to not worry about it. But if you do, I would return it and then wait until March to pick it up when Jupiter is out of retrograde. Macroon EJ7UJ says, just came here to say that you sent me down the El Ruderai rabbit hole as well, frAIter. So much so that I ended up purchasing the same yogurt maker and made my first successful batch yesterday. My first two were not so great. Yeah, I don't know why I didn't have problems with the first two batches. You know, a lot of people do. They say that the first one's going to be really bad, but just use that as your starter for the next one. Now, it wasn't as good, but it wasn't that bad. The first one was okay. It had the consistency, it just didn't have the flavor, you know, that tartness that you come to love later. But I also set mine for 95 degrees instead of 99. Because when you set it for the 99 as recommended, that model is known to go over that. But if you set it for 95, then when it goes over, it's going up to 99, and you're not burning it, so to speak, because those probiotics can be destroyed by excessive heat. They continue, and let me tell you, anyone who is watching this video and reading the comments and thinking this sounds like a bunch of hooey, this stuff is the real deal. After months of poor sleep due to stress and multiple awakenings during the night, ever since I started supplementing with this probiotic, I've been experiencing the most restful sleep I've had in years. My Fitbit is showing perfect uninterrupted sleep cycles. My skin is a lot more supple, and my usual cravings for sweets around that special time of the month has completely disappeared. I'm floored and extremely thankful. If anyone is skeptical, just get the probiotic itself and give it a few days. You'll be a convert soon enough. Yeah, I'm not currently taking the El Ruderai. I took it for 6 solid weeks, 6 batches, and then the 7th turned bad. So I switched to the El Gacerai, which is another probiotic. Cooks up the same way, except that one I do set at 99 because it cooks at a higher temperature. And it tastes exactly the same. But this one's more for your small intestine and getting rid of SIBO, which is small intestine bacterial overgrowth. And I just plan on alternating between the two, like Ruderai for 6 weeks, then Gacerai for 6 weeks. And I heard that around after 5 or 6 weeks, it's going to not turn out as well. But then I've heard others say that they can go forever. They're like on their 34th batch, just generation after generation. But in my limited experience, mine did crap out on the 7th batch. And I appreciate the comment. Probably my favorite comment from the giveaway was from Jess Knox, who says, I don't even play, I just come for the music. Happy Thanksgiving, frAIter, and everyone. T-Thinker16 says, one more thing, separate but related, frAIter. You should consider doing a program concerning addiction specifically. And feel free to cut me in on a percentage if it takes off. Well, I've had a program in the works for many, many years. The long-awaited and overdue hypnosis program that does have addiction addressed within it. But that program has been on and off the back burner for so long, starting with music licensing issues, and it's over halfway completed. But at this point, it's so old that it would almost need to be restarted from scratch. But yes, addiction is one of the things that I do plan on addressing at some point. I don't know if it'll be a program specifically for addiction, but it possibly could be. There are a number of addictions out there, all types, and I appreciate the suggestion. Ha Spicer says, some of you are not in your PJs with a cup of coffee and a cat on your lap while watching Thoth Life, and it shows. And the comment under that one says, nothing shows, as somebody couldn't find the link, I guess. Rachelin888 says, I would ban them indefinitely. Sounds like he's making excuses and playing victim. Well, I think that may be a little bit too severe of a punishment. I like to give the benefit of the doubt and believe that they didn't cheat willfully, that they were just ignorant of the rule because they just ignored the rules and played without bothering to check it. So I don't think an indefinite ban is the answer. Some of these were longtime subscribers and good customers also. So I'm not going to ban them forever, but they may sit in the hot box for a little bit. Especially the guy that you're talking about, because he, out of everyone, took it the worst and was just dogging me. But that part of it didn't really bother me. I just kind of laughed at that. Just, you know, if he's watching, just the more you F around, the longer you're going to have to wait until I allow you back in. You know, I'm not really mad at the guy. He's mad at himself. He lost his prizes. And he's misplacing that anger onto me. Don't think about what you lost. Think about what you gained. You gained knowledge and experience. You learned a lesson to know the rules before you play any game. Agent Neo 369 says, happy to say I never entered a giveaway because you helped me stay in abundance years ago. Now that's what I like to hear. Somebody being in abundance is never really concerned of paying for things that they know is worth it. You know, a lot of people don't make this connection, but abundance isn't just about receiving, it's also about giving. Abundance is a flow, both incoming and outgoing. The planet mostly associated with abundance is Jupiter, and Jupiter is the planet of generosity. It's the greater benefit. Many people don't have enough coming in because they don't have enough going out. For how can the abundance flow if you have a clog in the plumbing? So yeah, when people are in abundance, they don't usually mind paying full price for things. They're not trying to pinch pennies or cut coupons or search for discount codes. If one happens to fall in their lap, great, but they're not actively making it a pastime. A lot of people make frugality a lifestyle. But if you really want to be in abundance, you really got to get that circuit flowing and things moving. And I appreciate your comment, my friend. Thank you. Chris Ryan 512 says, I don't know what hyping a video does, but I hope it increases your reach. Well, I hope so as well. I don't really know what that is. It sounds like that's what it would do, but I honestly don't know what that is. I'm going to assume that's different than just liking a video. Not sure what the hype does. If anybody can explain it to me in the comments below, I would appreciate it. Thanks. Reality Check says, frAIter X, if I do the LBRP and middle pillar meditation on a daily basis, do I still need to do planetary seals at the end of my ritual, or is it fine to just close the circle and move on? I don't know what you mean by planetary seals. Are you talking like, if you're referring to invoking and banishing planetary energies, then it really just depends on what you're doing. It sounds like you're just doing the neophyte exercises. And if you're doing daily exercises, as you have stated, then you may want to do some grade work along with it, unless you don't want the commitment of several years, which I would perfectly understand. But I have a program in the works, which at this time is 70% recorded. And if all goes well, I'm hoping to release it in Q1 of 26. That I believe is going to answer a lot of your questions, specifically pertaining to ritual magic. You can close the circle and move on if you are not practicing invoking or banishing planetary energies, but at some point you should. I guess that's the best way I could put it, because it's really going to be situational when you're doing magical operations for different intended purposes that may just so happen to line up with a planetary correspondence that can aid in that. And invoking and banishing these planetary energies really should be practiced beforehand so that your first experience with that is not when you really need it. The planetary powers should be something that you familiarize yourself with and get comfortable with before having real need of them. They call it a magical practice for a reason. It sounds like you're just kind of at the beginning doing the preliminary rituals of the neophyte, and that's a great way to get accustomed to ceremonial magic, but you are going to want to be expanding into other components of ritual magic at some point. And if you are following grade curriculum, just follow the grade curriculum. If it says to do it, then do it. My condensed take on it is that if you are going to be doing ritual magic, you should familiarize yourself and practice all of these rituals until you realize through experience what these rituals do, what they're for, and only then can you determine on whether or not they are still needed for what you're doing. For example, I could just say you don't need to do the banishing ritual, the hexagram, or whatever ritual, it doesn't matter, if the purpose of your ritual is for this or for that, and it will mean something different to an adept than it will to a neophyte. Because a neophyte can hear that and think, well, I don't need to do that then. Wrong. The neophyte needs to do everything, because true knowledge only comes from experience. The adept has already experienced it and has probably already realized what I'm telling them, whether or not they've broken the habit of it. But the neophyte doesn't yet have the knowledge because they don't have the experience. And giving someone an answer like that will harm somebody more than it will do them good, because people will take answers when it isn't because they have to experience it to get the knowledge. Now, this is a problem I have with a lot of other magicians' channels, including LTC's, who I have the utmost respect for. I wouldn't be where I am today without him and his book. So I'm not trying to trash talk him by any means. I do respect him very much. But a lot of his video lessons will drive me nuts when he talks about and gives answers to things that should be discovered by doing the curriculum. Because a lot of people will take that answer and be like, well, I have the answer. Why do I need to do the curriculum now? I don't need to do the curriculum. I already have the knowledge. No, they don't. Only the people who have done the curriculum will have the deeper context and understanding of the answers that he's given. So you have to really keep in mind who you're talking to and who you're giving answers to, because you could actually do people harm when you're giving them a truthful answer, but now they feel like they don't need to do the work to get that answer. Does that make sense? So in talking to you, and from what you have written, you sound like you're very early on in your practice. You're just getting started. You're doing a couple neophyte rituals, and you're wanting to know if you can skip out on certain things. If I were you, I would not skip out on any of it. You don't want to take a lazy way out of things, especially when you're just beginning something. So if you're doing a self-initiation curriculum / grade work, you are going to want to follow that to the letter. But if you're just trying to start a practice where you're just learning these rituals and getting accustomed to them, just get them down and move on to the next one and learn the next part, which would most likely be invoking and banishing planetary energies. And I appreciate the question. Sorry for the long, convoluted response. And that will about do it for today. I'm going to be working on emails soon and trying to respond to everybody who has messaged me during the Thanksgiving holiday and giveaway, which had my full attention at that time. I certainly appreciate your patience. Check out Mind and Magic for programs and more. and consider joining us on Patreon. Chris Ryan also says the nice thing about being in Patreon is I get this a few months early, and when it drops here, I get a refresher, getting a double dose, so to speak. But if you're not down with Patreon, we also have a subscribe star and a YouTube membership option. It all helps support the channel, and I truly appreciate it. And with that, I will see you next time. Take care.
Pickles, bitch! I love pickles. My son loves pickles. I love pickles. My son loves pickles. Let's cue up some pictures of pickles. A pickle is a pickle. I like pickles. This is a pickle. That's another pickle. Here's a picture of more pickles.